Welcome back to Tuesdays with Tim, the podcast that touches on all things related to brain injuries among children and those who have been impacted by my son, Luke. Today, we have a very special guest, a very special father, Andrew Steinmetz. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Tim.
Andrew, take me back to December 28th of 2020, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. It was quite a day, completely memorable, changed the entire trajectory of my life, my wife's life. It's changed kind of everything. Uh, Kristen's pregnancy up to that day had been normal, had been healthy. Things were looking good. The weekend running up to that Monday night, Kristen just was not feeling Jordan kick like he normally had been. Tried drinking a cold drink to spur him on. It just didn't seem like the same level of activity. So just to be on the safe side, we went to the hospital. We had full plans for a home birth and doing things a certain way, the best laid plans, right? We went to the hospital and Kristen's heartbeat was rapidly accelerating at the same time that little Jordan's heartbeat was very quickly slowing down. So it was all very surreal. Raced down the hall. They left me at the closed doors where they jumped into a sterile operating room, did an emergency C-section to get Jordan going. It was 9 minutes before doctors were able to get a heartbeat from Jordan. And so our brain injury occurred right from the very get-go. As we were walking down the hall, or as once they were moving him into the NICU, they were using words like hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, and the the world was upside down. I didn't have the faintest idea what they were telling me. All I knew is things had gone off the rails. But that was Jordan's specific traumatic brain injury. It was a lack of oxygen in his blood, lack of blood flow to the brain. He spent his first 3 days living on a hypothermia cooling mat, which lowered his body temperature just to prevent any further damage to his internal organs. We didn't get to hold Jordan until he was 10 days old. Just, upside down, backwards. The world had gone crazy on us. And in spite of our plans to have a natural home birth, avoid the hospital, it was the a peak of COVID. We didn't want to be in a hospital in the midst of COVID. Instead, we spent 5 weeks with Jordan in the NICU. More tough conversations than we could count. Standing out was one where most respected neurologists let us know that Jordan had no healthy brain tissue. He would be in a vegetative state within 6 months. So a pretty traumatic brain injury, a pretty traumatic start for mom and dad. We got out of the NICU and we immersed Jordan, we immersed ourselves in therapies, receiving a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. It opened up the doors to more support. We did physical therapy, occupational therapy, feeding therapy, you name it. On top of the cerebral palsy, Jordan, I say, graduated from the NICU. He has a mild to moderate hearing loss. He has a congenital heart defect and some other implications that are related to a chromosomal deletion. Mom had a full set of genetic material. Dad had a full set of genetic material, but nature saw to it. I don't know how to explain it other than Jordan has a chromosomal deletion, 8p23. So that's just kind of on top of everything else that we were processing and are working through now. Fast forward a bit, we followed a lead. We were working with a practitioner in the Phoenix area. He gave us a tip about Team Luke Hope for Minds. He mentioned that there was a conference. So, there began a path that we've been following. We've learned a heck of a lot. Jordan is, of course, now he turned 3 in December, so it's hard to believe he's already been another almost half a year gone by. But just we've seen results from traditional, quote unquote, traditional therapies. We've seen, in our case, even better results from quote unquote non-traditional therapies.
And Andrew, let me interrupt just for a second. If you could
Sure.
tell me then your traditional therapy, such as PT, OT, and speech, and then if you could tell us what you have done, those that are non-traditional.
Yeah, certainly. We tapped into, and I'm not sure whether I am saying specific places that we've been or just kind of referring to.
Just the types of therapies that you have
Okay.
done with
Yeah,
Jordan.
yeah. Okay. So Jordan's first year, once we kind of got out of the woods with the NICU, it was a local cerebral specialist for kids with cerebral palsy. And it was, multiple times a week appointments where one session would be focused on physical therapy, another on occupational therapy, another on feeding therapy. And we felt like we were encouraged, but we just got to a point where it seemed like the benefit was diminishing. Like we maybe hit a point of diminishing returns. It seemed like he plateaued.
Mhm.
We weren't seeing the next step. And then just we went down a path. We reached out to a different kind of practitioner, and he let us know about Team Luke Hope for Minds, and we met with a mother of another child who has cerebral palsy, and she gave us a tip about a different practitioner in Tucson, Arizona. And we were, we're mom and dad. Nothing's more important to us than Jordan and helping him develop and reach his full potential, which we now know is a heck of a lot higher than the original neurologist had ever predicted for Jordan.
Right.
But a not Benil method is the name of the specific practice. It stemmed from Feldenkrais method, and there's a lot to it. But for me, it boils down to, there's 9 essential practices, and there's a lot to it. But for me, the one thing to just kind of put it into a nutshell is it's proven to us that neuroplasticity is real. It couldn't be more real. The brain that Jordan, the injury that he suffered was very real, but that same brain it taught him to roll over. It's taught him to belly crawl. It's taught him to crawl on all fours. We're working on him sitting, getting vertical, where it's going to be a process, but we're already seeing his development, seeing how this is going to lead to the thing that leads to the thing, which is Jordan being able to walk, assisted to begin with, to be sure, but the brain's ability to heal itself, to develop, to forge new connections is we just have become full and total absolute believers in the concept because we have our little miracle boy proves it to us every day that yeah, his brain can be rewired, his brain can learn, even if he had no fault of his own, a pretty hard start in life.
Well, I think that hearing this story and those that are listening can relate to the fact that what you were told is not what has happened. And it's a combination of both the therapies and the love that you and Kristen have provided. And as I've said so many times, I felt like Luke improved because of interaction with me and his family to the point where I was talking to Luke as if he was 100% healthy. And you said it perfectly that the brain can heal. And I just want to commend you for all that you've done because obviously you are very involved. And one of the things that I always discuss with fathers, and of course you know this being a part of my dad's support group, and that is to have fathers as involved as possible. And because it's so difficult, I'm sure at times juggling your job, taking care of Jordan as well as being a good husband. How does this dynamic work in your household?
Yeah, I'd say in some aspects it's changed. We've had to evolve, adapt, adjust as the months and the years have gone by. But generally, I'm the main breadwinner. I have a traditional, 9 to 5-ish job. I go to an office and I do work. Kristen has, let's call a spade, a harder job, a more challenging job, and she has been Jordan's caretaker. We've had some help, which we're appreciative of. Shout out to certainly our, Jordan's grandparents have been involved and just wildly helpful and connecting with some really, really fantastic respite providers and people who just care deeply about Jordan. In terms of the balancing act, it's I couldn't possibly sit here and say that we've perfected it. It continues to be something that we have to be uh, diligent about, disciplined about, because we have fallen over the years into just a little bit of a rut or a habit of we put Jordan first. I put Jordan first, Kristen puts Jordan first, and together we put him first. So we've had to remind ourselves and really just have to prioritize, hey, we're still Kristen and Andrew, we're mom and dad, but we're still Kristen and Andrew, and just coordinating for someone to come over and help out with Jordan for a couple hours, and that just gives Kristen and me a chance to go. Maybe it's reading a book, or we do something that we need to do together, but we just go sit at a coffee shop, and that has been we feel the difference when we do that, and we feel the difference when we don't. So I'll say it continues to be a work in progress, just because we find ourselves, so it feels natural to just get completely dedicated and devoted to Jordan, but then keeping in mind, I used to exercise a lot. I still need to do that. That's still important. Kristen, similarly, uh, prioritizing care, self-care, in addition to obviously caring for Jordan, but not at total expense of us taking care of ourselves and each other.
Well, I think that you are so self-aware, obviously, that the two of you understand what you need. Some days you're able to provide that for each other, but other days the emphasis is completely on Jordan, and that is understood by so many. You mentioned our conference, our Making Connections Pediatric Brain Injury Conference that you've attended. Tell me and tell us all, really, what did you get most out of that particular conference?
Yeah. And again, I just feel like the stars have lined up, and things happen for a reason, and it's not a coincidence that we were working with a practitioner who brought your organization to light, and being open-minded, being certainly all the motivated in the world. We checked it out, and we went to the conference for the first time a couple years ago. We've now been a couple times. First, Kristen and I just went, and it was actually the first time that we left Jordan ever. Kristen and I went to Austin to go participate in the conference and just see what it was about, and meet who we met and learn what we learned. And so we went once without Jordan. Most recently, we brought Jordan with us, which was a very different experience. Both were rewarding. For me, the content is wonderful. The speakers they're informed, they're educated, they're passionate about what they do. They have a lot of good information to share. So the content, and it could be a medical practitioner, but not necessarily. There's content that's good. I'll say for me, for Kristen and me, what we felt like is the absolute biggest benefit of us attending to the conference, and we'll go again in October, is the community. Um, it's people who all have clearly something in common. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at the conference most likely. So just being able to learn from others, being able to share our experiences, and the way that I feel about it is maybe we would have discovered ABM, maybe we would have discovered Feldenkrais method eventually another way, even if we'd never heard of Luke, or if we'd never heard of Team Luke Hope for Minds. But we went to Austin. we met some other parents. We took a chance, we followed a lead, and it's connected us with a practitioner. And I'm in Tucson right now. Jordan is in a nap. He's going to have another lesson in an hour or so. Where the conference led us to the practitioner who we are seeing up close and personal, making the difference in Jordan's life, which is what I mean. There couldn't be. It's hard to imagine a bigger benefit than being ultimately connecting us with the person who's helping Jordan develop, make those connections, rewire his brain, heal his brain, reach his potential. As you mentioned, Tim, I do participate in the dads group. So between the first conference and the second conference, that was another community that was born of the conference, and it's regular. I look forward to it. It's just a really good chance to learn from other dads who we all have different experiences. We have something in common, but certainly each of our children is unique. Our scenarios are unique. The things that we're trying are unique. The ways that we balance life, work, kids, all these things it's really rewarding to hopefully on a good day share something that will help some other dad, and then also kind of selfishly, pick up tips and tricks that I might be able to use it at home and in Arizona. And then, we went again to the conference, and it was again just tapping into that community, meeting people that we have not met, and just basically having a richer bank of experience for ourselves, and that we can share with others who maybe we're just a little bit further along in a process than someone else is, but we can help others to just explore or be open to things, or simply, we never say this is the way that it has to be done, or this will work for your child, but simply just to make options known, that let people know that they might not even be aware that such practices exist. Well, providing that education can be rewarding, particularly if it works out for someone else too.
Mm. Well, you've taken advantage of our conference, and I appreciate and so grateful that we're able to help parents like yours. And you mentioned the word community, and that's really what it is. When this happened to my son 9 years ago, there was no conference. There was no one really for me to reach out to who had been through it. And so I'm blessed and never take for granted that I'm able to help families like yours. And I'm just so blessed also that you were there and experienced it and keep in touch with others. And then also about to have therapy with someone that you met because of our conference. I talked to many families, and let's face it, 95% of couples, it's the mom taking care of and being the caregiver. But I always want to talk to the fathers and share the importance of being involved. And obviously, you are very much involved, and you understand, the task at hand, which is taking care of Jordan, taking care of your relationship, and providing financial support for your family. And a lot of times that is a juggling act that is almost impossible to juggle. But if there is one thing in closing that you would advise or discuss to other dads to help them along, and anything that you can think of, what would that be?
Uh, Probably, and this is, one man's point of view. The way that I see it it's not a universal truth. I wouldn't ever suggest, but just having, based off of my experience, our experience with Jordan, just having an open mind, seeking out different data points, being willing to explore options that maybe you didn't know about, but you learn about. Maybe you're not certain that they're going to work, but just being open to collecting additional data points, being receptive to what might work, and then just leading. This sounds silly, but just leading with love. I mean, if you have someone that you're taking care of, just and patience is it can be hard because it's a gratification kind of world, and we want quick results and things like that. But just being patient and understanding that it's a process, and even though the outcome is uncertain, just be consistent, be patient, keep an open mind, keep learning, keep asking different questions, question answers that you get. You don't ever feel like someone has a one size fits all solution that's going to absolutely work for your child, because kids are different. So I don't know if that's helpful. That's just kind of what comes to mind.
Extremely helpful when it comes to patience, and of course the word I resonate with is the word love, and you are providing the greatest therapy of all, which is love for Jordan and for Kristen. And I do look forward to seeing you October 25th and 6th back in Austin for our conference. Last year we provided I think 77 families, scholarship families, and had over 120 families, and looking forward to more of that this year, because I know how important it is for the families, but also for me to see the love that parents have for their children, and the desire to see their child improve despite what we've all been told. And so I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. I look forward to our next call for Dad Support Group, and of course seeing you again in October. So Andrew, thank you so much, and all the best to you, Kristen and Jordan.
Thank you so much, Tim. I'll see you around.
Take care.
Bye.